I now would like to yield 3 minutes to the ranking member of the appropriate subcommittee on trade and nonproliferation.
Our trade policy has created huge profits on Wall Street and the destruction of the American middle class. Doing more of the same will create more of the same result. Even the U.S. Government International Trade Commission admits that this agreement will increase our global trade deficit. But they say it'll be only a little bit. When I say this agreement, I mean the Korea Free Trade Agreement. This is the same organization that said permanent MFN for China would increase our trade deficit by only $1 billion. But this agreement, all the economic studies, are based on the idea that goods are going to be made in South Korea and come into the United States. Look at the fine print, the rules of origin. Goods that are 65% made in China, 35% finished in South Korea, come into our country duty-free. If that 35% of the work done in South Korea is done by Chinese workers living in barracks, duty-free. Now, we're told that that 35% of the work will at least be done by Chinese workers getting the Korean minimum wage. But after they pay for the glorious barracks living, those workers may receive nothing more than they make in China. 65% or 100% Chinese labor, free entry to the United States, and not 1 cent of U.S. increased exports to China. Likewise, rules of origin. North Korean goods, 65% made in North Korea, 35% made in South Korea, have a right to come into the United States duty-free under this agreement. Now but their importation would violate executive orders under IEEPA. So when the South Koreans try to bring those goods in here and we block them, they can legally threaten us with sanctions. At that point, the executive branch can repeal the executive orders and back down. And I know that the chairwoman has a bill designed to prevent that, and the administration will certainly not let us pass that bill, which I've co-sponsored. So the administration will have the right to back down and let 65% North Korean-made goods into the United States, or face sanctions. Either way, we lose. Finally, the agreement carefully does not define what is South Korea. The South Koreans want it to include the labor camps located north of the DMZ. This is to be resolved under Appendix 22 by future negotiations. So I've made a big point. Will Congress get a chance to play a role? The response has been simple. The Obama administration issued a press release saying, well, of course we'll let Congress vote on this. That is legally binding on no one. The fact is, the South Koreans will not allow a change to this agreement, which gives Congress the right to decide whether the Kaesong labor agreement, some would call it a labor camp, some would call it a slave labor camp, will have free access into the U.S. market. 65% made in China, 100% made by Chinese workers, 65% made in North Korea, or 100% made in camps located north of the DMZ. None of the economic studies show the tens of billions of dollars of jobs that we will lose when American workers have to compete against some workers in North Korea who are paid $8 a month. We cannot simply swallow the idea that this agreement means what it says in the summaries prepared by its proponents. And those proponents will say that I've misconstrued the agreement, but they will make sure that we don't have binding language in the implementing provisions, the legislation. Why no legally binding clarification? Because everything I say about the agreement is critical to the South Koreans, and my interpretation of this agreement is being used to sell this agreement in South Korea. 65% made in China, 100% made Chinese labor, free access to the United States. They shouldn't call it a Korea Free Trade Agreement.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm so pleased now to yield to the chairman of the appropriate subcommittee, Roy.